This problem is related with the projectile where it is thrown horizontally. Okay, let me explain this problem. So what this problem is asking is, you have an object and you throw an object from certain height. uh, this is 2 meter, the height is 2 meter, the height is 2 meter, and you throwing this object horizontally at 20 meter per second. Okay, so when you throw an object horizontally, it follows path, this path we call it a parabola. Okay, so what you need to find it out, what is the speed when it just hits the ground, or this means when this object comes here, what is the speed? Remember, so this is the horizontal velocity. The horizontal velocity at all points is the same, but the vertical velocity increases because the gravity is pulling downwards. The gravity is not acting horizontally, it is acting only vertically. So there will be the vertical velocity. So the total velocity, so this is the horizontal component and this is the vertical component. The total component would be the vector addition of the two, the velocity. This is what we simply call, this is a Vox. This is x is means along the x-axis, and 0 is means it is the initial velocity. This is the Vox, and this we will call the Vy. So now we need to find it out what is the Vy now. Initially, at the starting point, there is no any vertical component because the particle or the object is thrown horizontally. Okay, so just by using the equation of motion, we should be able to solve this one. So we can think this problem as a two independent problems, one along the x-axis and the other along the y-axis. So this is the y-axis. I'm just drawing here. This is y, and this is your x-axis. In y direction, what is the initial velocity? This is the 0. So I'm just going to use this equation, or the bracket means using a formula here. V is equal to U minus GT. V is equal to U plus GT. V is the final velocity, U is the initial velocity, G is the acceleration due to gravity. I think we will have to use that equation because the time is the height given. So we have to use V squared is equal to U squared plus 2GH. Why did I use this equation? Because this is given 2 meters, so height is given. That's why I'm using this equation here. The same thing here. We do not know the final velocity, so we have to calculate the final velocity. I'm just putting the y, a y just because this is along the y direction, and this is the initial velocity at this point, which is 0, plus 2. G is 9.8, and h, height is 2 meters. Okay, so just need to plug in the equation. So if you just solve this equation, the Vy, you will get 6.26 meter per second. Okay, so you found it out the velocity now. And now just take a look at this point. Let's say this is the final velocity. So the final velocity has two components, one x-axis and along the y-axis. So the final velocity V is the vector addition of Vox vector plus plus Vy vector, and the magnitude, which is the speed now, this is given by v0x squared plus vy squared. What is the x velocity, which is 20 meter? So I'm just writing here as a 20 squared plus vy, which is calculated, which is 6.26. 6.26 squared. You just need to use your calculator. When you do some math, what the answer you will get is 21 meter per second. Unit is meter per second. That you got. This is 21.0. Okay. So if we got the velocity now. Now what do you need to find it out? What is this distance? You need to find out this distance. We call this is a horizontal range too sometimes. Okay, so we need to find it out, or this, or we may call this an S distance. So now let's calculate the distance now. In order to calculate this distance, we need to find it out the time. How long does it take to hit the ground? Okay, and we know the velocity, so our purpose is now to calculate the time taken to hit the ground. So the time we can calculate again from the y direction. Okay, now I'm just using this portion here. So again in y direction, okay, v is equal to u plus g times t. We know the final velocity now. The final this velocity along the y direction, which is 6.26. The initial velocity is 0. G times t. So the time should be is equal to 6.26 divided by g. 6.26. What is the value of g? 9.8. 9.8. If you plug in your calculator, the time you would get is 0.64. Let me plug this number, 6.26. 6.26 divided by 9.8. Yeah, 0.64. The time you'll get is 0.64 second. This is your time now. So you know the time now. So how do you calculate the horizontal component r in x direction now? I'm using the x direction. Okay, you see, along the x direction, it is moving with a constant velocity. So I can use this relation as is equal to velocity times time. And along the x direction, we just put the horizontal range because this is the distance, and the velocity is 20 meter. This is along x-axis, and the time is 0.64. So your time would be 12.8 meter. This distance, horizontal distance, is 12.8 meter. This is your okay.